But I had the opportunity to put the comments to Canada's ambassador to Poland, Leslie Scanlon. She's been in the job for more than 3 years now. Her embassy is a hub for refugees making applications to come to Canada. I got the chance to ask her what those 3 years had been like versus the last month. Here's our conversation.
2 of those first 3 years were COVID, when evening events shut down and weekend events shut down and everything went virtual. This has been an incredible ramp up in a very short amount of time. Definitely, the pace has just gone huge.
and this embassy in particular has really become a center for processing refugee applications, visa applications, even biometrics, am I right? Correct. And what has that been like?
It's meant that we have staff in the building 7 days a week. We're working till 11 o'clock every night processing the biometrics. Since they've gone to an unlimited visa ceiling, the interest has been extraordinary. So we've had to ramp up. 2 weeks ago, we didn't have any in-person clients because in 2008, Poland eliminated the need for Poles to have a visa to go to Canada. So it's been quite a long time since we've had any in-person clientele. So in that short amount of time, we have hundreds of people rotating through the embassy getting their biometrics done. So it's an incredible result.
And can you shed some light on the biometrics aspect of this? Because my understanding from speaking with the minister is this is sort of almost a pilot program allowing mobile biometric kits to be done on site here versus somewhere more permanent or a whole other process that used to exist. Has it expedited the process for people applying?
Absolutely. The intention is to ramp up the VAX, which is the contracted service provider, and not keep it in the embassy. But because of the volume and the interest, obviously we'll keep doing it in the embassy as long as necessary to support the surge. But there's a whole lot of work that has to go into finding alternate locations, to getting mobile kits in place. But the immigration got out of the business of doing biometrics in person a while ago by contracting to a subcontractor. But as I say, there's such a huge priority on this that we're here to help, and we're just, like I say, working 7 days a week to make sure we do.
And when we speak about the last few weeks, in particular when this new program opened up, can you quantify at all what the demand has been like?
The demand has been extraordinary, and I don't think I'll go into numbers. Maybe you can get those from immigration, but I can say it's been hundreds all day, coming at 7:30 in the morning right through to 11 o'clock at night nonstop. And we have 2 massive rooms where people are coming into the waiting room and then going into the biometrics rooms, and we have, so it's continuous from 7:30 to 11 o'clock every day with multiple stations.
Have you ever seen anything like it?
I've never seen anything like this. And of course we have long lineups outside the embassy, and we have children, so we're preparing coloring kits to give to children waiting. We're doing everything we can. We're putting up tents. It's supposed to start getting, if it rains or snows, that on Friday, Thursday, there's meant to be a bit of snow if it's sunny. So we're going to be putting up, we want to make sure people are comfortable because they're waiting outside till they come in for their appointment. But they do have an appointment. We don't take people without an appointment, so it is flowing smoothly. But we do recognize people are coming with their families as well.
And do you anticipate that demand will persist for a while? I mean, obviously it's depending on what happens in Ukraine, but certainly it doesn't look like anything is about to end in the immediate future. Do you expect the demand to come to Canada through this process will persist?
I think it will persist. I think it's fair to say that Ukrainians want to go back to Ukraine. So the majority of Ukrainians who leave Ukraine, and now we're talking over 3.7 million or something, many of them will stay in the region. Most of them will stay in the region because they want to get back home. But for those going to Canada, obviously we have a huge diaspora in Canada as well, so there's a lot of interest in going to Canada. But we'll keep running this as long as there's a demand. I think it's very difficult to assess at this moment because demands are still coming in, so we haven't plateaued yet. There's still a lot of interest and appointments are continuing.
You mentioned those Ukrainians who stay in the area because they want to go back. Poland is home now to half of about 3.5 million Ukrainian refugees. Warsaw, I think itself, as of last week, had 300,000, where we are right now, 300,000. Can you reflect a little bit from your perspective on what that has been like to witness?
What I've been amazed at, and I say this for all of Poland, is the heartwarming response of the Polish people. It's extraordinary. We know from surveys that between 80 and 90% of Poles are doing something to help everyone getting out of Ukraine, whether they're Ukrainian citizens or other people who have just come out, by taking people into their homes, by opening, Poland has opened 27 reception centers. Warsaw itself has multiple reception centers. So I visited city reception centers and provincial reception centers, and it's just the volume of donations and volunteers. And so the response has been just the whole society is mobilized to respond to this crisis. That's what I've seen.
And what do you think it is underpinning that? Is it the proximity? Is it the threat itself that it comes from Russia? Because we have seen refugee crises not always addressed in the same way by European countries. But this one, there's almost a uniform response to it. What do you think underpins that?
I'll say honestly, because I'm in Poland, even I'm not Polish, and I didn't live through the Second World War. But when I look at images of what's happening in Ukraine, the destruction, I see Warsaw post-World War II, and I think it's visceral for Poles. They connect to their own history, and the history of the region, and their brothers here. Like it's a Eastern Europe. They know their history. They have relationships that go back forever, and I think that it's visceral. These are their neighbors and their family, because they're all Eastern Europeans, and they have a very common history in this whole sort of the broad Eastern European region.
On Saturday evening, President Joe Biden from the United States was here, and he addressed them and a pretty large audience consisting of refugees as well as politicians about what was happening itself. And he concluded his speech with a pretty interesting statement that I'm sure you're aware of. He said, "For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power," speaking about Putin. How do you interpret that?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I can't comment.
Let me put some of the thoughts that he expressed then to you, and just get your sense, just as somebody who's had a diplomatic presence here, who's familiar with the discussions that go on when it comes to the threat posed by Russia. The White House kind of walked it back and said, no, he's not advocating for removing him from power or regime change, but he's saying what many already understand, that Putin in power is, and I'm paraphrasing here, but is obviously a massive threat. Has your perception or your perspective on the threat Russia poses and Putin himself poses changed at all or evolved at all thanks to what you've witnessed here?
I have to say I have great confidence in Poland being a member of NATO and in the NATO response. And Canada has been on the leading edge of that response. We're very engaged in the region. You know, of course, that we have a battle group in Latvia. Canada, I was at a change of command ceremony, a regional over in Szczecin in Poland, and a 3-star general was here from Belgium from a NATO base, and he had met me before, and he turned to me in the audience and he said, "Ambassador, the Canadian ambassador is here with us today, and when we call for help, Canada always comes and helps us." I feel that the military engagement with the UK, the US, in a quad with Poland is very, very strong. So I personally, and when I'm speaking to my staff, people are obviously worried. There are 2 nuclear facilities in Ukraine that are obviously in the news, what's happening, and so we're monitoring. But I don't feel, and when I'm talking to my staff, I feel like this is a NATO country, and they are supported 100% by NATO.
And I know in the past, Poland has advocated for an even greater NATO presence within Poland. Do you think that argument has a bit more gusto behind it? I don't know if that's the right word, but you know what I mean? A little bit more weight to it now that we're witnessing what we are witnessing unfold in Ukraine?
Well, Prime Minister Trudeau has announced an increase in Canadian participation in the enhanced forward presence in Eastern Europe. So I would say yes. I think that's definitely it's a situational response. But I always think that the intention was to extend our presence in Latvia. We're very committed to Eastern Europe, Canada.
And do you think that as a whole, NATO's commitment to fighting the threat of Russia, no matter what that fight looks like, is permanently altered after this? Do you think like that the conversations that would have taken place 2 months ago will probably take on a whole new meaning going forward?
2 months ago, we were already contingency planning. So
maybe 4 months ago.
Yeah,
Good point.
It's hard to sort of, where is that moment where you start going, oh, actually something looks serious. It's very hard for me to say. I mean, our military, we have a robust defense attaché presence here in Warsaw. We're very engaged with our Polish hosts here in Poland, but we're engaged all across Eastern Europe. So I think we're here and we're committed for the long haul. Has it changed? Yes, I think it's changed, because there's a risk to more than just one small place. There's a risk to the whole region and to the world. So yeah, I think we're committed for the long haul here.
Okay, Ambassador, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too.
Hi,
I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.